Hello, welcome to Not Just a Recruiter, the podcast that dives into the stories behind running a successful recruitment agency. We go beyond the LinkedIn post and explore how recruitment leaders overcome their biggest obstacles. Today's guest is Alan. After 2 decades of building and scaling teams inside big tech and startups, Alan has launched Fractional Execs. They are a brand growth agency helping SMEs improve their survival rate. And today they've grown into not just a talent provider, but a whole global ecosystem with a growing suite of AI and business intelligence tools. For agencies, breaking through into C-suite leadership is the holy grail. In today's conversation, Alan is going to share what execs are really thinking and what recruitment agencies can learn from the boardroom. Alan, hello. Let's get straight into it. Why do you think that your perspective is different in the recruitment industry?
I guess longevity is probably the key there. Having recruited a lot of people over the years, and that's just one of the byproducts of being around for a long time. I've worked with some excellent recruiters that have been alongside my career for a long time, and also some that are not quite as excellent that have been in and out. And so that longevity, from my perspective, gives me, I think, quite a rounded view of the recruitment market. But also, what you notice is the longevity of recruiters and those that run recruitment agencies. Those that are in it for the long haul, and right now it feels like a long haul in recruitment. It also that pays off. Those that are really committed to it rather than seeing it as a stopgap, you can tell. Those that are there because they care about the people rather than just the process, actually they're the ones that are around and you drive relationships with, and you actually see the results at the end of it.
I think a really common thing that a lot of recruiters that stands out from a lot of recruitment leaders that aren't in it for the long haul is their drive and their push on constant sales. And if you ask them what is the biggest thing holding you back, they'll just say, we need more sales, without actually looking at the core issue, the core elements within their agency and within their strategy of what is leading them there. What do you find is the biggest misdiagnosis and is actually what is holding recruitment agencies back, other than just we need more sales?
I think this is a typical problem, not only for recruitment agency leaders, but also for founders of businesses as a whole. If I look at the technology industry and the recruitment industry, they're very, very similar. And I think the most common misdiagnosis is exactly as you just presented. I need more sales. And so this is a sales problem. I need to get more salespeople, or I need to sell better. And actually, it's a very short-term view. And I think, going back to that longevity in the market, I think if you attack the revenue problem with a short-term perspective, you may actually fix it in the short term, but eventually the underlying issues will come back to the surface. We get a lot of people cross industry come to us and present with exactly that problem. Actually, it's I need more sales. I've sold 5. If I have 10 more salespeople, I'll sell 50. It doesn't quite work. It doesn't quite work like that. We tend to look at the underlying issue as to why sales are stalled or not growing as they should. More often than not, a company or an agency that presents itself as having a sales issue actually has a brand or a perception or a marketing issue. And we try and unpick that first. And now that's not 100% of the time. Sometimes there is fundamentally a problem with the sales process, or people not using CRM properly, or a relationship issue. People not actually trying to build relationships.
Yeah.
But that's less common. It's more common that, particularly with recruitment agencies, it's so cluttered. Brand can mean everything. If you get your brand right and you actually pull out your point of difference and why you are different to the other 500 recruiters that are trying to get people to use them every day, then actually you're well on the way to actually differentiating. One thing I would say for agency leaders is, as well as having your own company brand and your company values, vision, mission, and making that available to people so that they can make their choices, personal brand is becoming more and more. And particularly in the world we live in now, it's mainly digital. Most of your customers are self-choosing. By the time they get in touch with you, they've made a choice. They're really
Yeah.
looking for validation of that choice. So your personal brand is really important. I see so many people on LinkedIn actually going on there and just moaning, and going and moaning and talking down other people. Well, actually, that gives a very negative perception of you as an individual, and people are looking for authenticity. LinkedIn provides a level of transparency around what people are like that we've not had before. So I think leaders should always think about that. Think about, people know about you before they talk to you.
Yeah.
It's inevitable now. We have a lovely side issue. We have a lovely product that actually people can use to find out lots about their prospects, so that they're prepared before they have a first conversation. And people need to be cognizant of that. So get the brand right, and actually make sure brand's two things. It's not just your company and your proposition. It's your personal brand. It's really important in recruitment. Specifically, it's more important than in some other areas.
I would be surprised. In 2025, it surprises me to this day how many recruitment agencies I speak with that just, quite frankly, don't use LinkedIn, and they haven't posted in the last 6, 12 months, because I would also be surprised if anyone that's contacted by a recruiter, the first thing they do isn't search that recruiter on LinkedIn and see.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do that with any B2B, person I speak with. I search them on LinkedIn is literally the first thing that I do.
I can just solidify what you've just said, Lois, because it's really, really important. People do go and look for you on LinkedIn, and inevitably, one of the places they will go looking, because you look above the fold on LinkedIn, and most people's profiles are the same. You go below the fold and get to the recommendations. Recommendations on LinkedIn are gold dust.
Yeah.
So, and there's some brilliant people out there, some brilliant recruiters, some brilliant agency leaders that are not actually capitalizing on the good work they've done. Another top tip from me is get those recommendations in. Go to your happy customers. It takes 2 minutes to write a recommendation. And if you have to incentivize them, that's fine, but make sure you've got them, because it's an area where people will look. And I'm like you, people approach me blind every day, and almost, I was going to say 100% of the time, but it's not 100%, but maybe 95% of the time. The first thing I do is I go and look at their LinkedIn profile. And if it doesn't grab me, or I think it's made up or it's not authentic, then inevitably I don't have the time to respond to everybody.
100%. Thinking as well of like how sales isn't just the problem. At the end of the day, every business, every agency needs to have a system that is scalable, and reaching out to every client that you've worked with to put together a whole case study sometimes just isn't possible. And it's very time consuming, not only for the agency, but also for the client. And having something that is scalable, one small aspect of that within the branding is going for those LinkedIn recommendations, something that takes, maybe not even 5 minutes compared to putting together, a whole case.
The case study thing's quite interesting. Lots of people put lots of weight in case studies, and I think in the enterprise market, that's very valid. But in the part of the market that we play in, and as agency leaders, where it's very competitive, we don't have 500 people. We've got a smaller resource pool. Trying to get a case study takes a lot of time. Getting commitment to a case study, a full-blown case study, it's very rare. And actually, when you ask your customer for it, I've had the same. Right, I get asked for it. The first thing that goes through my head is, oh, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, and then it can get stuck in legal because of stuff. So I would recommend not necessarily looking for a case study. Just look to present your use cases, and treat every engagement that you have as a potential reference, not necessarily a case study. People are much happier if you've done a good job for them and they're happy with your service. They're much happier to take a 2-minute phone call than
Yeah.
commit to 3 months of creating a case study. So that I'm not taking credit for that. Every customer should be a reference, by the way. That was one of our business partners that he sat and said it to us about 3 years ago, and I've started using it. So every engagement we have, we approach it with transparency, authenticity, and
Yeah.
our end goal, as well as revenue, is also referenceability. And that keeps everybody honest and doing a good job, and because they know that we want to be able to get a reference from every single one of our customers.
From an agency perspective, that they feel confident that they've got authenticity, they've got a good client base that of customers, of clients that they trust, the clients trust them, but they're stuck in a place where they've grown from maybe just one recruiter, they've now got a team of 5 recruiters, and they really, really want to make a huge indent on their market and grow to a team of 20, maybe 50 consultants, but they physically do not know what it takes as a leader to get. What do you think are the key things that they should be looking to do?
This one's a tricky one, right? And again, it's a cross industry thing. However, those that start and grow agencies, I think, suffer from it more than most. Those that are good at doing are not necessarily good at leading and showing others how to do it. Okay, and whether you're in sales or in marketing or you're, I don't know, you're in logistics, being able to do your job well doesn't make you a natural leader. And we see quite a lot of that. We see a lot of people thrust into leadership positions who, they try very hard, but they make some very obvious mistakes. And back to a word we used earlier, a lot of it comes down to authentic leadership. And if you are putting on a persona that you believe is leadership in front of smart people, we all know we should all be hiring people smarter than ourselves if we want to be successful. And if you then put on that facade, people can see through it very quickly, and they learn how to work around it. So the authentic leadership is really, really important. And also, there's a big difference between management and leadership. Managers.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm so glad you say that.
Yeah, there's a lot of managers, excuse me, who are very good at instructing others to do something, because they know it needs to be done. They're very task oriented. The leadership piece is, should be outcome oriented. The leaders are those that can show and lead by example, show people how to do it rather than tell them, and actually are not too bothered about getting their hands dirty and getting in the trenches and doing the work with their people. Now, if you are the latter, actually that drives a lot of loyalty as well.
Yeah.
People see that you not only talk the talk, but you can walk the walk, and that's quite important. Being like others. The other thing is leadership is a very personal. Leadership style is a very personal thing, and it comes from your personality. And so identifying what kind of leader you are will help you display the right leadership skills. Trying to copy somebody else's leadership style is inherently quite dangerous, because leadership styles are based on personality. And when I look at other people, then we're also attracted to people that are not the same as us.
Yeah.
Because that yin and yang thing, it works, and that's how you build good teams. if you get a team of 5 people and they're all the same profile, inevitably that will fracture and it won't work. So understanding why you need to lead, why you want to lead, and how you're going to lead is the precursor to actually being in leadership. Now, I accept that that's a perfect position, but as I said, a lot of people are often thrust into leadership positions. There's so many vehicles that can help you understand what kind of authentic leader you can become. And there's lots of coaches out there. There's lots of people that are available to leaders, especially those that are the accidental leaders that exist in the market, typically that are coming from founder positions. You see this quite often, not only with leadership, but with business leadership. People that put together teams and then grow agencies or create tech products and then try to grow that company. They're great at what they do, and it's almost like overnight they believe or they expect themselves to be able to run a business, and
Yeah.
it's really not. It's not that easy to run a business. So companies like ours exist to help with that problem, to help companies get over that short-term need to be able to bring in some experience and some expertise to help you lead your team and your company through what is a pretty precarious time, that
Y-
startup to scale up phase.
you're so right. And regardless, cross industry, like you mentioned, whether you're a recruiter and you've gone from being the number one top biller and you've now started your agency, or whether you're a tech person and you built an amazing platform and you're now scaling that into a business, I guess a part of it comes with dropping your ego at the end of the day and being willing and accepting that you will have to hire people who are smarter than you and maybe can take control of other aspects of the business. But ultimately, as the leader, you've got to keep a balance of that strategic vision and, like you said, get your hands dirty day to day. Another a recruitment founder that I spoke with recently, his like overall mission is for him to be the hardest working person in the room, because like you said, it comes down to the loyalty, and he knows that if he's not the hardest working person in the room, he can't expect that from his team.
So I would challenge that slightly, in that I love that. I love that attitude. I want to be the smart. I want to be the hardest working person. However, I would actually challenge and say, actually, what you want to be is the smartest working person. Okay, because activity doesn't always translate into results. Just being lots of activity. We see this in the sales area a lot, right? Lots of sales leaders or marketing leaders in particular track activity as a
Yeah,
measure of success. Now, actually, it's what does that activity turn into? So if you can be smarter about the activity, and make sure that everything that you're spending your time on has tangible results, you're not necessarily working harder, you're working smarter and enabling yourself to be able to do more stuff, more meaningful stuff. So I love the attitude from that founder, that they want to be the hardest working person in the room. But actually, as I say, I would say be the smartest worker, because people will see that and then they'll want to know why you're successful. I'm working really hard, but I'm not getting the results you're getting. Can you show me? And that's back to that authentic leadership, back to being able to show people how you do what you do and why is better than just do this, but do more of it. If plan that one thing you hear quite a lot is, plan A will work. You just need to do more of it. Just do it. And it's not true. If plan A isn't working, have another plan.
yeah.
You know.
And if plan B isn't working, plan C, D, and E might be the ones that work. That all leads quite on well, actually, because again, going back to the recruitment leader, the recruitment founder that finds himself in a position where they're really struggling. They're used to doing they're used to breaking into businesses in one way. They're used to reaching out to candidates in another way, and it's quite frankly just not working. From a leadership perspective, what do you think is some really good advice that somebody can take away to break out of that mode of nothing's working, nothing I do is working, and they need to figure out what the next step is?
Yeah, lots of companies at the moment are in kind of survival mode,
Yeah.
and with the attitude that it's survival of the fittest. Back to that, I have to work harder. I do think if things are not going quite as you want them to at the moment, a bit of self-reflection and analysis can help. Work out what your desired outcome is, and then reverse waterfall that. What do I need to do to hit these targets? At the end of the day, not everybody will get through this. What is a particularly horrendous market right now? It's really not great, and not everybody will get through it. Those that do will be those that really, and those that make it through a tough market like this typically go on to build big, brilliant companies and are super successful. If you can succeed in this market, actually
Mhm.
you've got a lot. It tells you a lot about yourself and the
Yeah.
team you've built, and actually your proposition. I think if it's tough, go back to the basics, and look at what are we trying to achieve and how are we going to be different. I think don't keep throwing the same things at the same problem if it's not fixing the problem. I think it's Einstein said it, didn't he? That if you continue to do the same things and expect different results, then you're on the road to insanity.
The definition of sanity is doing the same thing and expecting the same results. Yeah.
And expecting different results.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if it's not working, then why would you just keep doing more of it? Because all you're doing is spending more money and time and giving mind share to a problem that you've not managed to identify the fix for. Also, there is room in a market like this to be different. We speak with a lot of leaders and a lot of founders who are doing the same thing, and I often ask them, okay, so this is interesting. Why are you doing it that way? Can you explain to me? There must be a fundamental reason. And I hear quite a lot, because we've always done it like that. Okay, great. But, when you always did it like that and the market was amazing, there was room for everybody to be the same. You're doing it the same way and it's not working and the market isn't amazing. Now there's room for different. Now there's room for challengers to actually rise above that level that everybody's at and do things slightly different. So when things are not quite so good as they could be, it's an interesting time to try something different. So my advice to founders right now is look for how you can be different, because if you're different now, you'll be very different in a good market.
This might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but casting your mind back to when you were building teams and you were with BlackBerry and Sony Ericsson, I'm not too sure if you did use recruitment agencies back then, but if you did, what were some of the things that actually truly made a recruitment agency stand out?
Personality. People that spent the time to get to know me as a hiring director, that they stood out. And some of those recruiters I'm still working with today. They're partners. If you look at our partner page, you'll see there's 2 or 3 recruiters in there. They're people that have been along, on the journey with me for 15, 20 years.
Wow.
And we've got to know each other. Just last week, I had a super catch up with somebody that hired me for a company around about 17 years ago.
Wow.
And we hadn't seen each other for about 5 years, but actually it was great to catch up again, and we'll become partners again, because fundamentally that role of a recruiter is to understand not only the candidate but to understand the client. What we did at BlackBerry was that there was a lot of internal recruiting happening, which I'm not a big advocate of, by the way. I'm not a fan. I don't think you get the hunger that you need from they can work in tandem. Talent acquisition teams can work in tandem with recruiters. But to use them exclusively is, I think, a bit of a mistake. You don't get access to the top level. Yeah, well, it's just from experience, really, from the results I've seen. I've always preferred if you want to get the best in the market, you need to have the biggest net. All right, and obviously technology is helping right now to make that pool smaller, quicker, so you can differentiate. I'll come back to that bit of advice for agency founders in a moment. But I think my experience over the years has been based on the people element. Just understanding who it is you're working with. Because if a recruiter understands, if I go back to previous life, if a recruiter knows me and understands how I work and what I look for in people, then actually they will find the right candidates for me, rather than just looking at a list of skills and attributes and then doing this when they go for interview. Okay, if they can make the match and they're confident of the person they put forward because they understand me and they've done the chemistry match, actually that's when you get fewer interviews but more meaningful interviews being put in front of you. And I think that's quite important. One of the things you asked me for a bit of practical advice. Just at the moment, I don't think it's ever been more true. There are so many candidates, just so many candidates, and recruiters and agencies are having to try and differentiate in front of clients. There is technology that can help. And we're not the only ones doing it. There are other people providing this as well. But there is technology that can help, and there are people that can help you build the technology within your business to be able to get you to the right candidates quicker.
Hmm.
And we know that speed of delivery is one of the key metrics. If I'm a recruiting manager, hiring manager, and I have 3 agencies that are working with me, almost inevitably, the ones that are going to get the brief, because I know them all based on our previous conversation, the ones that get the brief are the ones that can promise me that I'll have a short list of candidates next week, not
Yeah.
2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And so that time of delivery of that shortlist is really, really important. Now, it's becoming harder and harder because the moment you advertise a job, literally minutes later, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying. So I would encourage people to take a look at technology to do that initial first pass of candidate matching and validation, and even pre-screening using AI to do the first call. Because and you know, as I said, we're not the only ones doing it, but we do offer that. It's proving to be something of a game changer. If you can sit with a straight face in front of your client and say, on a Monday morning, thank you for the brief, Mr. Customer. I'm pretty sure I'll have you a shortlist for interview by the end of the week. You're going to be in a great position. And typically you can do it in 2 to 3 days using technology.
I think in any market, getting back to getting back to the hiring manager within 1 week already, that's too slow because someone is gonna is gonna going to beat you to it.
And that's where
Some
that relationship thing really matters, right? If you've built a relationship over years with somebody, then actually they kind of know what you can do and they know the kind of people they're going to see. Now, if you've been with them for the long haul, they might be willing to wait a little longer for your candidates because they know that your candidates are good. But in a super competitive market right now, don't be embarrassed to use tech to shortcut some of the process, because recruitment, probably even more so than some other parts of the industry, is very process driven,
Yeah,
and not enough leaders actually map their process. And if you map your process, then you can shorten the time between each part of the process, and that's where you drive efficiency.
some really, really good insights. Personal branding, authentic leadership, and scaling. What would you say is to the recruitment leader listening to this today if they're going into their Friday thinking, God, I really need to close some more deals, or I really need to book some more client meetings? What do you think, bottom line, is the number one thing that they should do today?
Pick the phone up. Honestly, pick the phone up. Not enough people, they've got a phone, but they don't actually call their clients or their prospects. There's an example in this industry of somebody that's been doing it for 25, nearly 30 years. And I get a call from this guy. Yeah, I'm happy to name check him. His name's Steve Morrissey from Som 3 up in the Northwest. I get a call from him every month, and he's a partner, right? But we've worked together a few times over the years, and I know he does that with all of his clients. He does it with all of his partners. He's old school. He picks the phone up, and you know what? I can't always take the call, but I'll always call him back because he's got some amazing insights anyway, and he knows how tough this market is. But
Yeah,
he defaults back to, this is a people business. It's not only about facing people. You do business with people. So if you're sat there today, it's Friday, it's grey, it's raining, and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to change. I've got to move the needle. Pick the phone up.
amazing. Thank you so much. There is so many nuggets of information there that are super valuable. I really appreciate you joining us today, and I would love to have you back on in the future.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much, Liz. Cheers.